Welcome in, Manitoba hockey fans, to the return of the Manitoba Hockey Podcast for episode 6 here in the first season of this podcast, of course, presented by Goaltenders, Terrico, Make Canada Fasters and Tools, as well as Can Central Sports Cards and Memorabilia. Going to be a bit of a different show today. We've been off for the last little bit, just working some things out in terms of how we can optimize our content coming out, as well as thinking of new ways coming up with new content, I guess is what I'm trying to say, in terms of more short form content throughout our social media pages, more news content and stuff like that. Just find our structure here, and it's been a bit tricky, but yeah, I also held off this episode for a little bit because I was unable to get a guest for this week's episode. We're going to have guests on next week's episode, which will be coming out on its regular scheduled day on Tuesday for episode 7 then. But this is episode 6, and what I'm going to be doing, even though I am going solo, there's still a lot to talk about in this episode today, as we're going to be running through the Manitoba Junior Hockey League, the Manitoba U18 AAA Hockey League, both high school hockey leagues here in the city of Winnipeg, in the Winnipeg High School Hockey League and the Manitoba Women's High School Hockey League, as well as updating you all on what's been going down with the two University of Manitoba Bisons hockey teams, both the male and women's program, or the men's and women's program, as I should say. And programs, as I should say. But yeah, as for this episode, it should be a lot of fun still, even though there aren't any guests. It's going to be a good one, though, for episode 6 here on G-Show Productions on gshow.ca. And the Manitoba Hockey Podcast brought to you by Goaltenders, Terrico, Make Canada Fasters and Tools, and Can Central Sports Cards and Memorabilia. All right, let's start off with the Manitoba Junior Hockey League. So yeah, as you may be able to tell by what type of content we're going to be talking about, this isn't going to be the longest episode ever. It's going to be pretty short, in fact, for our standards here at G-Show Productions. But yeah, we'll start off with the Manitoba Junior Hockey League. As for the standings right now, it's the Selkirk Steelers who are still on top of the MGEU East Division with 12 wins, 3 losses. Now, at one point in the year, about a few games ago, they were 10-0, and this team ended up suffering some losses. If we take a look at Selkirk in their last few games before their most recent win, 5-2 on October 22nd, so 3 days ago this week on the Tuesday night. But before that, they had lost 3-2 to the Northern Manitoba Blizzard, who are on top of the West Division with a 9-4 record. Beat Dauphin 5-3 the game before, but in their first loss of the season, it came to the Neepawa Titans, and then it was the Winkler Flyers who delivered a huge blowout loss to this Selkirk Steelers team, winning 9-0 last week on October 15th. But yeah, for Selkirk, they won't be back in action until October 29th. So coming up next week, and this is a team that, even though they've struggled a bit more in the past few games, they have an unreal goals against differential right now at plus 27. As for the other top 3 teams in the league, the Steinbach Pistons and the Winkler Flyers, the Flyers have been finding their footing a bit as this season has gone along. As for the defending champs, they started off with, looking back, it's September, 2 losses in a row to Steinbach and Neepawa, but as October has gone, this team has been really hot. They only have lost 1 game in this month, and that was back on the 20th, so on the Sunday, to the Dauphin Kings. They're going to be back in action tonight in Swan Valley, in a back-to-back against them this weekend before going on the road to Dauphin to face the Kings at the Credit Union Place Arena on this Sunday. Speaking of the Kings, as you can see there, their top 2, the only teams with one win so far this year are the Winnipeg Freeze and the Swan Valley Stampeders near the bottom of the standings, at the bottom of the standings in their respective divisions. But as we take a look at the point leaders, speaking of Selkirk, I mean, they have a lot of star power on this team, led by Owen Warnick, Luke McCarthy, and Rowan Guevara, who are all top 3 in points. Guevara tied with Cameron Bollinger with 19 points, as you can see there. Bollinger with a better points per game average. In fact, the best in the league right now with 1.58. Wyatt Witham rounds out the top 5 in points there as well, and also has the most goals out of these point leaders. As for the goaltending leaders, none better than Steinbach's Christian Green right now, as he has a 6-1 record, only 1 loss on his season, 2 shutouts, and an outstanding .942 save percentage. Noah Olszewski for Selkirk ends up in that top 5, as well as Liam Ernst for the Winkler Flyers with a .932 save percentage. All of these goaltenders with shutouts, as you can see. Moving into the Manitoba AAA Hockey League, as it took a while for them to get their stats uploaded into their website and whatnot, but we're finally going here, and we've been seeing the stats pile up as the season's gone along. The Winnipeg Bruins, the Southwest Cougars, and the Parkland Rangers all come into this upcoming weekend of games, which it's going to be another busy one, as there's 3 games happening tonight in the league. There's going to be a jam-packed Saturday with 4 games on the schedule, and then 4 games on Sunday to end off this weekend. But yeah, right behind them are the Winnipeg Wild and the Eastman Selects. The Brandon Wheat-Kings, they have a lot of games in hand on the teams in front of them. At most 3, as you can see there, and only 1 game in hand on the Winnipeg Bruins, and they sit only 2 points back of them. As for the stats in this league, none better than Quinton Fisk right now, forward with 18 points, 11 goals, 7 assists, and his points per game average tied with Brandon Wheat-Kings forward Cole Dupuis, as he has 9 goals, 5 assists, 14 points in 7 games played so far. As for the Manitoba U18 AAA goaltending leaderboards, we went with the top 10 instead of a top 5. And yeah, for the Brandon Wheat-Kings, they have fantastic goaltending again on this year's squad. .949 save percentage for Brady Lowe and Matthew Michta with a .935 save percentage. Both goaltenders with shutouts there. Yeah, no goaltender has more than a shutout at this point in the year, which I believe should change at some point. In terms of, I guess they don't count points for these goaltenders on the stat sheets, but yeah, as you can see there, we take a look back at the standings, though, in terms of looking at these teams' goals differential. Winnipeg, the Bruins, as well as the Brandon Wheat-Kings with the top goals differentials right now. The team with the worst has been the Central Plains Capitals, but this is a team that's been able to find some wins as of late. Taking a look at Central Plains, as they start off the season in that last spot. Actually, their past 2 games haven't gone as well. It actually was on October 11th or October 12th on the Saturday where they ended up beating the Parkland Rangers, as Parkland is one of the top teams in the league. So Central Plains, I guess when they are able to find their top game, this is a team that could still give some teams in this league a bit of troubles, but overall it's, I said, as of late, it's been good for them. As of late, it's been rough. A 6-2 loss to Southwest and a 10-1 loss to the Winnipeg Bruins on Wednesday. They'll be back in action tonight to take on the Yellowhead Chiefs, as the Chiefs looking to get back into the win column. A team that's played the least games in the league so far this season. As for the full stats and news and updates surrounding this league, be sure to check out their website at mbu18AAAhockey.ca. As we take a transition here, coming up, we're going to be diving into some high school hockey talks, as we'll be going through the top, middle, and bottom divisions in all, both, not all 3, but two of the high school hockey leagues that operate here out of Winnipeg and in Manitoba as well. You're watching the Manitoba Hockey Podcast here on G-Show Productions. More news and updates to come after this transition. Well, welcome back to the Manitoba Hockey Podcast, everybody. We're going to get into some Winnipeg High School Hockey League news now, as, I say news, but this is more so going through stats and, more so the standings for these leagues coming up. As the Oak Park Raiders start off undefeated in the Platinum Promotions Division, the top division in the Winnipeg High School Hockey League. They, ended up playing their first game of the season in the division's season opener, winning 5-2 against the J.H. Bruns Broncos. As for the other wins for the Oak Park Raiders team, I mean, you look at the goals, 4 goals against average. They've been dominant offensively and defensively so far. Proved that against the John Taylor Pipers with a 4-1 win back last Friday. And for Oak Park this week, to start things off, they had a bit of a closer game against the Steinbach Regional Sabres, winning 4-2 against them. They're in action tonight against the defending champion, St. Paul's Crusaders, who they're off to a rough start for their standards. 1-2 through their first 3 games, 12 goals for, 14 goals against. Some close games for them to start. The Rams at the bottom there, as we can see, tie for second place with River East and Vincent Massey. And for the Westwood Warriors, J.H. Bruns Broncos also tied with 6 points each. And yeah, as for the statistics from this league, as we roll on one of our sponsors here, but yeah, the players that have been leading the way so far, as we pull them up, but it's been actually River East Kodiak's Nolan Fielding that has been popping off so far this year to start for the River East Kodiaks with 4 goals, 7 assists for 11 points. Gavin, or let's take a look. I don't want to name wrong. Yeah, Gavin Salamacha behind him in fielding with 3 points back, 8 points in only 2 games played. And then right behind him, or tied with him, would be Cam Sylvester of the Springfield Sabres, but with 1 more game played at 8 points himself. So impressive numbers from the top of the Winnipeg High School Hockey League's Platinum Promotions Division stats leaders. As for the netminders so far, Mitch Feeblecorn and Nathan Dick, both with 2 wins to start off the season, as well as Carter Sigurdsson for the Westwood Warriors. In terms of the save percentages, Nathan Dick with an outstanding .957 save percentage through his first few games. For Feeblecorn, he has a .900 save percentage right on the dot, and for Sigurdsson, a .911 save percentage for himself. As for the Winnipeg Free Press division, I don't even know what the right word would be. I guess former high school. Belleville Barracudas, strong start to their season. Only 1 loss so far in overtime, or in extra time, as I should say, as they're all classified the same. But yeah, 3 wins so far. They sit up by 10 points, as I believe all wins bring 3 points for these teams. But yeah, it was an overtime loss for them. 17 goals for 11 goals against so far. A team with also the same amount of goals against, the team right behind them in the Pierre Elliott Trudeau Canadians. The Leo Remillard Renards start off the season as the only winless team through the first few games of the 2024-2025 WHSHL regular season in the Winnipeg Free Press division. As we take a look at the leaders for this division, at this point to start things off. Jamin McIntyre with 7 points in 4 games played for the Sanford Sabres. Behind him with it's about a 5-way tie for second in points. It's David Lazar, Ian Vandersweep. Lazar plays for the Calvin Clippers. Vandersweep plays for the St. John's Ravenscourt Eagles. Ryder Latta, shout out to his dad, Randy. I used to play for his dad. He used to coach me. But yeah, he's off to a great start with 4 goals, 2 assists for 6 points in 4 games. And Avery Hepburn is also tied with his teammate in Latta on the Barracudas with 6 points, 3 goals, 3 assists for him. And then the last person tied in that 6-point range is, I believe, they mixed up the names, I believe, again. Oh, never mind. Crane Easton with 6 points. That's a heck of a first name, Crane. I dig that quite a bit. That's pretty cool. Interest in the names here, and you see in 2024, hey? But we'll go into the Price division now, and you saw a flash of the standings there. But it's been the Louis Riel Voyageurs who... Yeah, this team has been the toast of the league so far. The cream of the crop. 42 goals for, 17 goals against. They've punished teams so far. Taking a look at their season opening win, it was 16-3 dropping over the Kildonan East Reivers, who they, of course, sit near the bottom of the standings, tied with Churchill with an 0-2 record. More goals than Churchill, as you can see, but goals against wise, it's been rough for the Reivers in the first 2 games of the season, averaging 12 against. But that Louis Riel Voyageurs game definitely putting a huge dent in the reason why the stats look so much like that. But yeah, in their second game of the season for the Reivers, they ended up, we can find it, losing 8-6 to the Windsor Park Royals, who, of course, it's early, but they start off as a 1-0 team this year. But for Louis Riel, they played the most games along with Linden Christian in this division, and talked about how Louis has dominated teams while they go out. They win a closer one against Lorette 7-5 on the Thursday, October 17th of that division's opening weekend. But then they go out and dominate the Warren Wildcats, yesterday, 12-3, and start off this week with taking a look at it, a 7-6 win against, the Glen Lawn Lions. So a team that's proven so far that they can blow you out, and they can also win in these high-scoring, close games. You got to think their coaches probably want them to get better defensively, but hey, winning in different ways, this is one of them. And how you win hockey games sometimes are in these barn burners, and credit for Louis being able to do that so far this season. I assume when we take a look at the stats here that it's going to be mostly Louis Riel Voyageurs players. And yeah, Luca Tatro starting off the season with 22 points in 4 games played. That's absolutely ridiculous. Jacob Traeger, his teammate, right behind him with, well, not right behind him, I guess, but 15 points in 4 games played, a 7-point difference there between the two. As for who rounds out the top 5, Christopher Torino for the Glen Lawn Lions with 11 points in 3 games played. Jonah Allard Bradley for Louis Riel, 9 points in 4 games played. And Davino Lafreniere with 9 points in 4 games played. So, yeah, domination from the top of the stats leaderboards for this Louis Riel Voyageurs team. As we move into our final high school hockey league to talk about, more rural than the Winnipeg High School Hockey League. I guess both of them have some rural Manitoba teams in it, but this is the top division, the Glen Lawn Lions. Perfect 3-0 to start off. Defensive dominance, same with the CJS Olympians. 2 shutouts back-to-back to start off this year. The teams near the bottom, well, at the bottom, the West Kildonan Collegiate Wolverines, the Churchill Bulldogs, and Warren Wildcats have all failed to pick up wins through their first 3 games. Oak Park and the Shaftesbury Titans, the Oak Park Raiders, both only playing 1 game so far with 1 win apiece. As we take a look at the rest of the schedule for this week, as this week will be wrapping up after today. In the Manitoba Women's High School Hockey League, we got the Warren Wildcats. Actually, no, it's wrapped up already. So action resumes coming up on Monday with the Warren Wildcats and the Churchill Bulldogs taking on each other, as one of these teams is going to come out with a win for the first time this season. Just a matter of who at this point. And the West Kildonan Wolverines taking on the Shaftesbury Titans. Both of these teams looking to get into the win column again. As for the stats in this Division 1 level of Manitoba Women's High School Hockey League play, it's been, Veda Rigo from the Manitoba Female Hockey League's Eastman Select. She leads her team in points in that league with 7-5 games played in the defenseman. Well, she talked about, how much enjoyment she's had playing in this league, and don't blame her. 8 points in 2 games played so far. Are you kidding me? Unbelievable start for the young Veda Rigo. As for Kate Chubak for the St. Mary's Academy Flame, she's 2 points behind Rigo with 6 points. She has 5 goals compared to Rigo's 2. Rigo way more assists though, with 6 compared to Chubak's 1. Callie Lavely also from the Winnipeg Avros in the Manitoba Female Hockey League. Chloe Minkus from the Interlake Lightning for the Glen Lyon Lions in this league. Lavely for the West Kildonan Collegiate Wolverines, both tied with Chubak with 6 points. And Veda Rigo's sister, Delaney Rigo, is just outside of the top 5 in this league for Glen Lyon with 5 points in 2 games played. 3 goals, 2 assists for her in Manitoba Women's High School Hockey League play so far. So cool. They've played together their whole lives basically, and they get to play AAA hockey together as well as high school hockey. Pretty cool stuff, I do gotta say so myself there. But in terms of Division 2 action, 2 undefeated teams at the top there, the Selkirk Royals with 3 wins, and the Sanford Sabres with 2. The only winless teams so far, the Miles Mack Buckeyes, the John Taylor Pipers, and the River East Kodiaks. River East with the worst record in the league so far, but their goal differential for that, it's not that bad, only -5. Gonna be interesting to see how tight the standings are in this division specifically, as they do look pretty tight to start off this year, but hey, gotta remember that there's quite a bit of season to go, so gonna see how things shake out. But as for what is happening in the league today for this division, they will in fact be in action, as 2 games are on the schedule starting at 4 p.m. both of them. The first one to talk about, the Seven Oaks Arena will be the home to the Garden City Collegiate Gophers taking on the River East Kodiaks, and for the Westwood Warriors, they'll be at home at Allard to take on the J.H. Bruns Broncos. As the Broncos, middle of the pack to start things off. You look at a team like Westwood, they're looking to, of course, go over a 500 record. And for the J.H. Bruns Broncos, not the J.H. Bruns Broncos. For the Lorette Scorpions, of course, looking to improve to 3 wins. And for the Selkirk Royals, of course, looking to improve to a perfect 4-0 on the season. But as we take a look at the points leaders here in Division 2 play, Amy Liberty, another player from the Winnipeg Avers in the Manitoba Female Hockey League. She's tied with Alyssa Downing of the Garden City Collegiate Gophers with 6 points each. They have identical goals and assist numbers with 5 and 1, but Amy with one less game played compared to Downing to start off the year. Ainsley Zubek from the Central Plains Capitals in the MFAHL, 5 goals, 0 assists to start off. Rounding out the top 5, Olivia Brewer and Meredith Weeb. Brewer for the CPEC Canadians and Weeb for the Sanford Sabres. We'll end off with for this part of the podcast, this segment, finishing off with our female High School Hockey League discussion, our Manitoba Women's High School Hockey League discussion, with the PCI Saints and the Dakota Lancers near the top of the Division III standings to start off this season. PCI with a dominant for goals against differential, the best in the league by far to start things off. And yeah, it's been quite the troubles to start off the season for the Beausejour Barons, as their own 3 with a minus 16 goals differential, with only 2 goals for so far through their first 3 games. Like I said, though, the season's young, and there could be some improvement from the Beausejour Barons, or this could unfortunately be a long season in store for this team if they don't start to get things going. But yeah, as for the games in this league, if there are any today, there are not. League will resume its play on Monday with a triple header. Springfield, the Sabres, taking on the Dakota Lancers at Oak Bank Community Rec Arena. PCI, the Saints, taking on Beausejour, the Barons, at Stride Place. And Murdoch McKay taking on the SJR Eagles at 4 p.m. at East End Arena on Rink 3 there. We'll end off with this segment by talking about the stats leaders in Division 3, wondering if there's going to be any more Manitoba Female Hockey League players, and no one that I can really think of here that I can really recognize. It's Ella Harkness, 8 points in 5 games played, leading the way for the PCI Saints. In fact, the Saints have 3 total players in this top 5. Ashlyn Pierrepont with 7 points in 4 games played. Brooke Henderson with 7 points in 5 games played. Maddie Stoller and Nina Bose round out the top 5 there. Maddie Stroller for the SJR Eagles with 5 points, and Bose with 4 points in 2 games played. We're going to take one more transition here. We're going to end off with updating you on the Manitoba Bison's men's and women's hockey programs here on the Manitoba Hockey Podcast for episode 6. Welcome back, everybody, to the Manitoba Hockey Podcast. We're going to end off with talking about some University of Manitoba Hockey Bisons conversation here, as these are not updated, but if you want to go check out the scores for yourself, visit gobisons.ca. This is for the women's program. Their 2 games this past weekend against the Regina Cougars not going in their favor, losing on Friday by a score of 3-2 in a shootout, and losing 2-0 on Saturday. Both of these games were on the road. They're going to be back tonight, starting at 7 p.m. at Wayne Fleming Arena to take on the McEwen Griffins in a 2-game weekend series. 7 p.m. tonight and 3 p.m. tomorrow at Wayne Fleming Arena, as mentioned, as McEwen comes to town. As for the Bisons, their leading point getters so far, former Avro. Been a lot of MFHL talk, and this is another former Avro, and Nora Collins, that leads this team with 3 points so far in their 4 regular season games played. As for the men's Bisons, their past week in the play, they took on the Regina Cougars as well, except this was taking place in Winnipeg at Wayne Fleming Arena, and it was a split on the weekend for this Bison's team, a 6-3 win against the Regina Cougars, and then a 6-4 loss. They'll be on the road to take on the McEwen Griffins, so the women's Bisons staying home, and the men's Bisons traveling to Edmonton, Alberta, taking on the Griffins tonight at 8 p.m. and then tomorrow at 3 p.m. And then they'll head home and look forward to their upcoming matchups. Like mentioned, if you want to check out when this Bison's team is in action, their scores and the updates surrounding that team, be sure to check out gshow.ca. And one last thing, Skylar Bruce, a former WHL player, now on the Manitoba Bison's men's program, leads this team in points with 6 so far in 4 total games played. So a pretty strong start for Mr. Bruce, and actually someone that I was in a hockey camp with when I was younger, and he was 2 years younger than all of us, and he was by far the best player on the ice. I know it's years later, but just thought I'd bring that up after seeing his name again. Of course, followed him a bit during his WHL career as well, and fortunately, things didn't quite pan out for him right now for him to get drafted to the NHL, but maybe with the U of M Bisons, there could potentially be a path to him playing not quite at the NHL, but maybe some sort of pro hockey. We'll have to wait and see, I guess, there with Skylar Bruce. But right now, enjoying his time with the Bisons for sure, with 6 points through these first 4 games. That's going to do it, though, for this edition of the Manitoba Hockey Podcast. I've been your host, Graham, the G Show, Forsyth. We're hoping that we're going to have guests on for our next edition of the show, which will be coming out on Tuesday next week. Halloween week. It's going to be a spooky one, everybody. No, I kid. But yeah, let me know in the comments what you may be dressing up for this Halloween. You don't have to go trick-or-treating, of course, or be a kid to still dress up. You could be going to a party. You could be just dressing up for the fun of it. Let me know what your costume is this year, or even what your favorite costume has been in the past. I'd love to hear it. But yeah, special thanks to you, the viewer, for tuning into this episode. If you enjoyed this content here today, this podcast, the Manitoba Hockey Podcast, be sure to hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss any future uploads of this show. Episode 7, details of it will be coming out on Monday, along with our full Week 8 podcast schedule. We've been posting our full week content schedules in terms of our podcasts and games and everything else we have going on in our events, and under our announcement banner, you can click on it and check it out. That's what we've been doing for that. So it's going to be posted like that on our website next week, coming up on Monday. Stay tuned on our social media pages, as we'll also have details about what's to come for episode 7 of this podcast coming up on Tuesday next week. Special thanks to McCann Fasteners and Tools, Terrico Goaltenders, and Can Central Sports Cards and Memorabilia for sponsoring and supporting another edition of this show, and for continuing to support our network here in 2024-2025. Yeah, we got a busy night ahead, everybody. We're hoping to, like I said at the start of this episode, release way more variety as a content in terms of short form. We'll probably post some highlights and snippets of these podcasts on our social medias going forward, and some other cool stuff. So thank you, as always, for supporting this show, everybody, and for tuning in. I've been your host, Graham, the G Show, Forsyth, giving you the salute, peacing out, and saying so long. I gotta get ready to get on the road to Morden, Manitoba, as we'll be broadcasting there tonight. Brandon Female Vikings taking on the Pembina Valley Hawks in some MFHL game day action. I hope you all have a safe and wonderful weekend. Enjoy all the great hockey coming your way, everybody. And also, go Jets, go 7-0. Can you believe it? I honestly can't, but it's quite the ride it's been so far for the Winnipeg Jets. And you gotta love how those boys have been playing to start off the year. Just thought I'd mention it, even though we aren't doing any pro hockey stuff this year. But yeah, like I said, I've been Graham, the G Show, Forsyth, your host, and until Tuesday morning, everybody, when the episode will probably come out. Like I said, stay tuned for details on our website and whatnot. But yeah, we'll see you next week. Take care, everybody. Bye now.